Hello and welcome back. This is it. The ultimate battle. WAGOs versus Wire Nuts. Or WAGOs. Whatever you like to call them. Welcome back to a special video that I've been wanting to make for a while, where I put these electrical connectors head to head against each other. If you're from the USA, you'll be familiar with these. Wire nuts. English electricians hate them. American electricians swear by them. They absolutely love them because it's what they use on a day-to-day basis. Now, if you're British, you might have been used to using these funny little screw connectors. Or if you're really old, you might have used the porcelain version of these when you were doing your apprenticeship back in the 1920s. But for a long time, we've not used wire nuts in the UK. However, they're very commonly used in the US and in other countries too. In the UK, we have started using these a lot more in recent years. What are they? WAGOs or WAGOs. Whatever you like to call them, or WAGOs, some people call them. Lovely connectors. So let's get these open. So I bought this little set off Amazon, link in the description. And it has a selection of different size wire nuts. The size chart is on the front here. And unfortunately, because they're mostly used in America, they use a gauge system, which is numbers rather than millimeters squared like we use in the UK. So you've got number 14 to number 12, number 14 to number 16, number 18 to number 16, number 20 to number 18, number 22 to number 20. But that means absolutely nothing to me. So we're going to have to find some kind of Google Translate for wire nuts to actually see what size wires in millimeter squared cross-sectional area we should actually use. But we got 200 pieces in here, 40 of each type, and the colors are listed on here. In fact, I'm going to try and guess. So the red ones are the biggest. So obviously the numbers go up. Number 22 is the smallest wire, number 12 is the biggest wire. So the grey ones are these tiny ones here for number 22 wire. Let me see what that translates to in British wire sizes. Hey Siri, what size wire is number 22 in the UK? Here we go. American wire gauge, AWG to British Standard Wire Gauge. Here we go. So 22 is equivalent to 0.23 millimeters squared. Well, that doesn't exist. So these ones straight away we can go, get rid of those. We're not going to be using the grey ones. We do have 0.75 though. So 20 is equivalent to 0.75. So on here we have, okay, the grey ones can fit 20 as well. So we could use those for 0.75 wire. What we want is 2.5 because that is the twin and earth that I've got in my bag that I want to connect using these WAGOs and do a comparison. So that is equivalent to number 14 wire. So in here, number 14 is the yellow or the red connectors. So I'm going to go with a yellow and a red, and that is the equivalent of this and this in WAGO land. So how do these two compare? That's what we're going to do a test on right now. We're going to try connecting 2.5 millimeter squared or number 14 wire, if you're American, using wire nuts versus WAGOs, and see which one turns out the best, the quickest, and all my thoughts. But first, hit a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't done so already. Let's go. So for our American viewers, this is called PVC twin and CPC or twin and earth cable. It's flat cable, a bit like Romex in America, and basically it's got 3 cores in it. It's got 2 times 2.5 millimeters squared or 14 gauge wire with a 1.5mm squared, or roughly 16 gauge wire in the middle, which is the earth. So let me strip it and I'll show you exactly what I mean. Now there are multiple ways to strip this. I'm doing it in a really bad way because I didn't bring my proper twin and earth stripping tool. So what I'm going to do is break the hearts of every electrician in the country by stripping it using the CPC. There we go, look at that. Don't you just love it? And then we can peel off the sheath here, which is this PVC outer sheath. And inside, as you can see, we've got the blue and the brown wire. The brown is for the live or line conductor in the UK, and the blue is for the neutral, or I don't know what they call it in other countries. So I think you would call this, if you're American, you would call this the hot wire. This is the ground wire. This is what we would use as the earth or circuit protective conductor, and it's just bare copper. And then this is the neutral, zero. I don't know, let me know in the comments what you call it in the country where you're from. So we got our wires. Now let me just cut back these individual wires. I'll lay them on the table there, and I'm just going to strip back the copper on this, and I'll strip back the copper on the other end as well, and we're just going to do a simple test of connecting these two ends together. Now first things first, with WAGOs they do have a recommended cable stripping length, which you can see on here is 11mm. So I've done it slightly too long, so I should really cut that back slightly. So I'll do that. I'll cut it back to about 11mm. I'll do the same with the other one. I think these are the ones where you have to lever them up. So you lever them up like that, you pop the wire in, clamp it down, simple as that. Same with this one, lever it up, clamp it down, and that's it. And this one is obviously just spare. So we've got a nice loop of wire there, perfectly solidly connected together. I can pull on that all I want. You could tow a car with that and it pretty much wouldn't come out. They're super, super strong. The nice thing about these is you can undo them, pull them out, and that's it. Reuse them, whatever you like. So now let's try the yellow wire nut. And I must admit to you, this is the first time I've ever tried a wire nut before, so please don't kill me in the comments if I'm doing it completely wrong, but I think it just goes like this. So presumably you just slot your wires in and you twist it onto the wires like that. Okay, and what seems to happen, which I've seen on other people's videos before, is it kind of twists the wires together here as well. So there we go. Right, now that does feel pretty solid, I've got to admit. Like, that is solid, that is not going anywhere. So first impressions are quite good, but there are a few things that I don't like about this. So if I want to remove it, okay, I can remove it by just untwisting it, which is good. And you can see the effect that it's had on the wires. It has twisted the copper together somewhat. But you know, that's fine. But then if you want to, you know, untwist the wires, you've got to completely untwist them, you know, to disconnect them. And then they've got like a little kink in them. So now, if I want to straighten those up, I need a pair of pliers on those to be able to straighten them out. Now, a lot of people would say, yeah, but you don't actually ever need to disconnect wires. Well, not true. You know, we often need to connect wires together to do testing, which I know is another point of contention because in America they don't really test their installations. But in the UK, we have to disconnect things quite a lot to do testing and then reconnect them. And having twisted wires like that is just a nightmare when it comes to disconnecting and reconnecting. You end up cutting off the bit of wire that was twisted and just doing it again, essentially. And as you do that, the wires get shorter and shorter, and it does get problematic. So my first impression of the wire nut is not bad, but not really practical, and I just don't really understand why people use them. Now, I must say though that these are probably super cheap compared to WAGOs. Like, these WAGOs are probably about 10 cents each or something crazy like that, whereas these are probably less than 1 cent each. So that might have an influence. Obviously, you know, it's going to cost you more to use these in your installations than it is to use these. Let's try a red one, just to see if there's much difference. In fact, let's try red WAGO first. WAGO. So this is the other option of WAGOs. There are a few different types out there. So this is push fit only. And what it means is once you've got it in, you can't really get it out again. You have to kind of cut the wires off. Let me show you how it works. So you just push, and you see I've done both of those at the same time. I've pushed them both in, and now you're not getting those out. They are so quick. I mean, that is quicker than a wire nut, and it keeps the wires straight. There's also a nice feature where you've got a little hole here for testing. You can put a test probe in there, and that means you can actually do tests on these. You can get access to the metal part of the terminal to do testing, which is quite important too. And these WAGO 221s have the same. They've got a little hole there that you can do the same thing. Whereas, as far as I'm aware, wire nuts do not have any option for testing. So now I can't get these off unless I really twist. Okay, and then they do come off. The wire itself, as you can see, is nice and straight still. So this can be reused and this can be reused. Let's try with a red wire nut now and see how that turns out. Okay, so again, very solid connection. I can't really complain too much about that, but I just don't like the neatness of it. Like, it just looks a bit of a mess when the wires are twisted together like that. I mean, space-wise, these take up quite a lot of space as well. They're pretty chunky compared to these, which I think are more compact, I would say. So if you've got a tight space where you need to fit a lot of connections, WAGOs are probably going to win because they're so thin and compact as well, which is another consideration. Now these have different ratings. So the WAGOs here, they can go from 0.5 mil to 2.5 millimeter squared, and they have a power rating on them, which is written in very small writing, but I think they go up to 32 amps, something like that. It depends which ones you use. Different ones have different ratings. This one can do 20 amps. And on the side here you can see, oh, it says 32 amps on the other side, so I'm not sure which it is. But this can go up to 4 millimeter squared wire as well. And you can get larger ones of these that actually do 6 millimeter squared as well. So that's quite nice. Okay, so if I take that off, you can see the wires have been twisted together. Now I know that I've seen people do a slightly different way of connecting wire nuts as well. So let me just have a go at that. So this is the other way that I've seen people do wire nuts, is that they actually strip the cable back a lot further and they twist the copper together. They twist the copper together before putting the wire nut on. So that would look something like this. And I've seen people do this in all sorts of different ways, but I'm just going to do it with my cutters. So if I just twist that myself, like so, and then cut that off, you can see I've got a nice solid twist on this now myself, and then I can just screw the wire nut onto that. Will that work? Not great. It's probably slightly too long. If I try it with this one, works a bit better. There's a bit more room in there, but there is a bit of exposed copper in there, so I probably need to cut that down slightly. So if I cut that down to about that length, I mean, they don't seem to have any instructions on here about how long you should strip them back or anything, but if I do it to that length, yeah, that works fine. So, my question for you, dear audience, is: do you twist or do you push? Are you a wire nut fan for life, a die-hard wire nut fan, or will you convert to the lovely little Lego block-like connectors that we call WAGO, VAGO, depending on what accent you prefer? WAGOs versus wire nuts. Who wins? I'll let you decide. Please feel free to battle it out in the comments below. But don't forget to like and subscribe before you do so, because we post lots of awesome electrical content about the life of an electrician, tools, electrical products, and some more great videos are going to pop up on the screen right now for you to watch after this video. But either way, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Have a great day.